It's time for the Unnamed SWTOR Podcast, a podcast so good it doesn't need a name. So without any further ado, here's your host, JD. Take it away, Johnny.
Hello, my friends, and welcome to episode 19 of the Unnamed SWTOR Podcast. I'm your host, JD, aka Gadactique, and today's episode times, they are a-changin'. Well, that's right, BioWare has released several changes that are on the horizon for SWTOR, both short-term and long-term. Very exciting stuff. The Winter of SWTOR is looking to be much hotter than the summer, and I, for one, am terribly excited for the new class changes. Some people aren't, and we'll discuss that in the second segment this week. We will start off discussing the Winter of SWTOR, which was the game plan for the next 3 to 4 months. It looks like it goes into February, when players will be getting into Galactic Starfighter. When everyone gets in February, that's when the Winter of SWTOR will end, I guess, and we'll be on to new things that we haven't even heard of before. With all that being said, I've got a lot to talk about this week. I'm glad that I was at the cantina last week, because there wasn't a ton of news until then, but now we can just force leap right in.
Red 2, I've got a topic coming in hot, requesting clearance to engage.
Lock S-foils in attack positions. You are cleared to discuss.
So this past Friday, BioWare continued their promise of being more open with what we'll be seeing in-game in the future with the SWTOR holiday update, which I will affectionately call the Winter of SWTOR, and as opposed to the Summer of SWTOR, this one is far, far more exciting in my eyes. And you PvPers, you got nothing to complain about here, that's for sure. So let's go down this list of features that we'll be looking at coming up until about February, it looks like this list goes to. So first up, Game Update 2.4.2 will be targeted for October 29th. That's right, 2 weeks from now. Even less than that at this point. The bi-weekly update contains the usual bug fixes, minor tweaks, and is notable for 2 very important features: the start of Ranked PvP Season 1, and not only that, the web-based Ranked PvP leaderboards. And I, for one, am super excited and am so happy that the PvPers are finally getting some love. This is something that they've needed in-game for a long, long time, and it's awesome that they're finally getting it. Hopefully it's not too little too late, and from what I've seen, I don't think it is. I think people are really finally taking to the 4v4 format. I think they like that. I'm sure there are people that do miss the 8v8 ranked style, but I think people have seen that 4v4 is an adequate and very competitive style of PvP, and I think they'll be happy to see leaderboards and be able to compare EPs with each other, which is what PvPers love to do. If you don't like comparing EPs, then why are you a PvPer? Some exciting stuff that's still to come with this that they haven't announced, and I'm sure they will coming soon, seeing as this will be coming so soon, is how these leaderboards will work. Will there be a team-based rating? It will probably be a solo-only leaderboard, I would guess. There would be a team-based rating for you personally, so it will rank you on a solo and a PvP ladder system. We don't know how the rankings are going to work. If they'll be server-based, if they will be global-based, who knows. There's no crossover queuing, so it might be unfair to have a global-based queuing system. No. I know a lot of people would like a global-based queuing system. It will be unfair to have a global leaderboard system, but they might just say that the average of all the servers is just about the same and rank them all equally and put them all on one leaderboard. We'll see how that goes. It would be really awesome if this had a full breakdown. It showed specs, it showed gear, but I'm not expecting that just yet. Hopefully it will come in the near future. I know that Bruce McLean did tell me that the web team is kind of off on their own, and they come up with cool stuff and they come back to him and say, hey, look what we made. So maybe this will be one of those cases, and it would be awesome, and I think a lot of people would appreciate that a lot. People can find out what's the hot spec, what is the best gear, and I think a lot of people would appreciate that. This is just probably the best update that PvP has received since the game launched. I can't think of anything that even compares to this. It's pretty much everything that people wanted. I'm sure there's some people out there that will find some kind of fault with the system. And hopefully going forward, they'll be more apt to add stuff to the PvP space. I know that we'll have a McKeb arena coming soon. They've announced that. It wasn't done for the testing and for patch 2.4, but I know that'll be coming soon. We're pretty sure there's a Hutball map on Quest coming soon, so all great stuff. Excited to see that happening, and we'll see where we go from there. Next up, have you ever been frustrated trying to find an available name and making a new character? We currently have many millions of character names across all servers, some of which might no longer be in use. So, what are they going to do about that? They're going to flag some 36% of those character names, so that's a lot of character names, many of which were created in the early days after launch, and free up a lot of name options for current players. So get ready to snag your names that you've always wanted. They haven't told us exactly how they'll be doing that, but they did give us some hints on what they'll be doing. Current subscribers, have no fear, you won't have any characters renamed, so when they do go about renaming, if you really want to snag and save those names, just resub for a little while. And even if you're not a subscriber, on inactive accounts, the bulk of character renames will be under level 10, and no character level 30 or higher will be renamed. So if you have all your characters over 30 and you play them frequently, they won't be renamed. Currently they're targeting November 12th for the date, but that obviously could change like any date they ever give us. This is, I think, a good idea. I know some people I've heard somehow being upset about this. I don't understand. They're only going to be taking out inactive accounts, it looks like. I mean, we don't have any of the details, but just from reading this, it sounds like only inactive accounts will have their characters renamed. And if you're saying that some people out there won't come back to the game because they've had their character renamed, I think those players have something, I don't know. If you're not coming back to a game because your character has been renamed, I don't think you really wanted to come back to the game at all. Just saying. So I don't think this really affects anyone negatively who it should, and it will open up tons of names, hopefully, for players who really want certain names. People have been screaming about this for a long time. People get attached to their names, and if you're an active player, you deserve the chance to get some of those names back. So this is a great thing in my opinion, and I'm excited to see what names I can snag for myself once this happens. Also on November 12th, it looks like we'll be getting Bounty Contract Week again. People, I think, like Bounty Contract Week. I know people like the changes that they've made to it. They're really excited about that. It makes it a little easier to grind up rep. So if you're really into getting your Bounty Contract rep up, then November 12th will be your date. And it looks like in December at some point we will get the return of the Gree. I talked to Bruce McLean, like I talked about in my community cantina, about how events are more like recurring daily areas. I've kind of coined that term in my Unnamed SWTOR podcast. And he did say that they are repeating the too few events they have too frequently. And I think this spacing is a good, solid amount of time. I can't remember. I think it was August when we last saw the Gree. And I think people are now saying, like, hey, where's the Gree? I could go back there. That'd be kind of fun. You know, I want to get a speeder or something. I can do Xeno Analyst once or twice more. Like, that'd be exciting. I think this is the perfect amount of time to have space between events to make them really feel... Have players miss the event and really feel some nostalgia or some pull going back to that event. If you're running the event every week like the Bounty Contract Week, and I know some people do like the Bounty Contract Week, but I think players will get burned out by it a little quickly. So hopefully this is the perfect amount of time. Hopefully they do it right. They do some tweaks to the PvP, because that could definitely still use some tweaks. I hope they just don't release it how it was last time. But other than that, I'm excited to see the Gree return. I personally like the Gree area. I think it's a cool area. You have some good quests. You have some great bosses. Nice world PvP. I think it's a great, all-encompassing event. And we'll see how it goes when they re-release it. And I'm excited to see what they do to it. The next thing announced, which I hate to say I told you so, but I did tell you so. As Thanksgiving approaches, it looks like we'll be getting another Double XP weekend starting November 27th and continuing through Thanksgiving weekend until December 2nd, just like I predicted several episodes ago. This is just the perfect thing. There's nothing wrong with Double XP. Doing it too frequently, there is something wrong with that. But these Double XP weekends are great reasons to play your character. There are tons of players that I know that don't play very frequently, you know, just hop onto PvP, hop onto Raid. They're on for like 12 hours a day in Double XP. Double XP is that great incentive to get that other class up, to get your tank up, to get your healer up. It just really... it gives players a chance to branch out which I think is an exciting thing, and who doesn't like double XP? Double XP is amazing. And it even makes those free-to-players feel a little bit more, I don't know, loved. You know, they get double XP too, and it makes things a little smoother, a little easier. Double XP is a great time to get your friends into the game with a free-to-play account, which, who doesn't want their friends playing the game? Let's be honest here. And finally, the no longer Super Secret Space Project, which I will continue to call the Super Secret Space Project for the extent of the game, has been revealed at last, and we're working hard to bring Galactic Starfighter, the free digital expansion, in February. But on December 3rd, we're planning to open up for subscribers, just like they announced in their other dev vlog. Also in 2.5, we'll have the continued class balance updates, an all-new PvP Warzone arena, the McKeb Mesa arena, which I discussed before. Again, we knew about this. This was announced last week. Galactic Starfighter looks amazing. Players are excited to get in. I'm so happy that they're giving subscribers this awesome bonus. What subscriber isn't happy with like 3 months of... 3 months? December? Yes. Did I just say December, October, November? Yes, I believe that the first 2 months of the year are October and November. Anyway. Who doesn't like 3 months of early access? You'll be able to boost your character up, get ahead of all those free-to-players, and hopefully own them once they get in. Which, I know, who doesn't love owning free-to-play players? Free-to-play players might not like that, and we'll talk about that when there's not so much news to talk about, but this is a slippery slope that they may be running here. If they do let the subscribers in, allow them to boost up, because we know that subscribers are going to get a bonus to experience or whatever. I don't know what they're going to call it, but let's just call it experience. You're going to get a bonus to space experience. You're going to throw in the free-to-players who don't get that bonus, and also have to compete with the free-to-players, the non-free-to-players who have been in the game for 3 months. That could be a bad news bears situation there, but that's a topic for another episode. We will continue on here. The class balance updates I will talk about in the next segment, but needless to say, everyone wants class balance. Who doesn't want class balance changes? Unless they're nerfs, which, again, discuss in a second. They will be releasing individual blogs and updates for each and every one of the above items, so stay tuned to SWTOR.com and the forums for more updates. This isn't an exhaustive list, and we are working on some very exciting longer-term stuff and some shorter-term surprises we aren't ready to cough up just yet. Trick or treat. As always, the dates listed above are the dates the team are shooting for, and though they are working very hard and feel like they can hit, there is always a chance that something will slip if it's not ready. I'll let you know as soon as we know it happens. We at BioWare would like to say thank you for your continued support. I was going to say keep your feedback coming, but I don't think you need that encouragement. You're a very vocal lot. Ha ha ha, Bruce McLean, you're a funny one. And we wouldn't rather any other community than you see you in game. So overall, the Winter of SWTOR looks sizzling hot. The Summer of SWTOR is far behind us, far in the past. The one thing I will say is there is a distinct lack of PvE content here, which I know people were complaining about the lack of PvP content in the Summer of SWTOR, so that makes me think that the patch after February will be a big PvE patch, just like the big PvP patch came after the Summer of SWTOR. Which, Masamatsa, if they do release... Did I say that right? Misa Judge R. Binks? Yeah? Okay. Anyway, if they think that releasing Nightmare Raids after a long stretch of no PvE content is going to be enough to hold us over for another 3 months until they release a new set of operations, then I think they'll be sorely disappointed, just like they were this time. Speaking with Andrew Horowitz, they were disappointed with the number of players who actually did Nightmare Raids, so I think they realized that Nightmare Raids, while are great for what they are not great for everyone. So I really hope that we either see... This is what I think they should do. They should either go with a couple of, you know, world bosses in there. Someone suggested lair bosses to me, and I thought that's a great idea. Put a lair boss on Alderaan, put a lair boss on Tatooine, put a lair boss on Hoth, and just let players go at it. You know, that's all they need. Just a couple of bosses in there. Sprinkle them in once in a while. Every update, just add a new lair boss. Is that too much to ask? I don't know, maybe. But I think that would be cool and would keep PvEers happy, feeling like they're getting a little bit of spice every so often. Also, adding nightmare raids, I think, need to be accompanied by smaller operations, new operations to let players, the story mode player, let them go into their new story mode and give the harder core players a nightmare mode at the top and a hard mode operation in there. I think that adds challenge. I think if you have the hard mode operation first and then a nightmare mode operation on top of that, I think progression is even more fun. You know, there's more of a race. You got to get through the hard modes and then go into the nightmare modes. That's kind of cool. Will we have bug problems like we did this time? Will we have imbalanced operations? Who knows? But I think that's a cool idea, dropping a whole new op and a nightmare op of the current tier, the new Dread Ops. Would be a nice addition all in one patch post-February, say March or April. That would be cool. Also, lair bosses sprinkled in there. Just for a little bit of added flair would be really cool in there. Can't wait to see these updates. I can't wait to get into space. It's so exciting. I've been wanting hardcore, good space combat since the start of the game. And while I did like the Star Fox-esque kind of space game we have now, who doesn't want better space? It's Star Wars. It has star in the name. Space should be good. And hopefully it is. So, Winter of SWTOR should be good. Will it be? Well, that's up to them. So, as I talked about before, they did discuss the continuing class balance changes, and this week they did announce a few of them. To a roar of cries and screams, and some people happy. So, we'll see who's on which side of the fence right after the update. Sorry, we don't have a news update person here. So we're just going to have a little bit of music for about 30 seconds. I'm going to go grab a drink and come back. You should too, because I sound much better when you're drunk. Go drink beer. Must be 21 or over, please drink responsibly. As I said in the open, times they are changing, and class changes are coming. On Thursday, Bio released a dev blog listing all of the major class changes that will be coming in Game Update 2.5 in December. So I'm going to go through the list here. I know a lot of people are happy, a lot of unhappy people out there. So let's take a look at what we got, who should be complaining, who shouldn't be complaining, and we'll see where I fall on each matter. First up, Sith Inquisitor and Jedi Consular. In the Balance Madness tree, there will be a new talent, not a new talent, an updated talent, Devour or Psychic Absorption, will make your damage over time effects uncleansable. This has been a big complaint by people, mostly in PvP, that the dot classes are severely outclassed by healers just being able to cleanse off all their dots. And that just destroys their rotation, destroys all their damage output, and this is specifically listed under the Consular and the Madness, and they talk about the Shadow Assassins who are saying that the Balance Madness trees are just unplayable. While they do mention Shadows and Assassins by name, this will also obviously affect your Sorks and your Sages, your Sage DPS, Sork DPS. The specializations that depend on damage over time effects often have a hard time being effective in PvP, so we're trying out this change on one of the most damage over time dependent specs in the game, Balance Madness. As previously stated, this benefit will be for both Sorks and Sages, and Shadows and Assassins. And if this change plays out well, we will expand it to other classes in the future. This is kind of an extension of what they did to the Operative, the Lethality, and what is the other version of that? Dirty Fighting. The Dirty Fighting Lethality change where they added in the Nice Try talent. I think it's a cool talent. Nice Try is a cool idea that when you cleanse off a dot, it just puts off a mini dot on you. So that's interesting. I think that this change is a little boring. It's not super interesting, and it also might make it annoying in the way that our UI is currently set up, it's not easy to tell what buffs are cleansable and what are not. So you might have a bunch of healers spam and cleanse on you, not really knowing what can be cleansed and what can't be cleansed. Hopefully they get to updating the UI and be able to make something happen with this to make it a little easier on players. But that's the only negative I can really see with this, other than it being boring. I think Nice Try is a cooler way of doing it, but this is obviously a stronger way of doing it. We'll see how it works out. The Madness Balance Assassins, I know, are very upset currently. They are probably considered the weakest DPS in the game, and I can't say I disagree with that. So hopefully this change helps out in PvP, and we'll see if it actually works going forward. Like every one of these changes, we won't actually know how it works out until we've actually seen it in game. I know all you theory crafters out there saying, no, look at this spreadsheet, I can prove, this is the best. No, you're wrong. We'll see how it works in game, and that will determine how these changes end up. Next up, new game terminology, and I'll say I like this update a lot because I'm a big fan of elegance when it comes to gaming. And anytime you can say less words that mean more things, I'm all behind that. So first up, cleanse. The word cleanse will now mean removes a limited number of the certain type or types of negative effects, usually force or tech, from the target. The word purge will mean removes all negative dispellable effects from the target, usually yourself. This will be like dodge. So cleanse will be like your healer cleanse abilities. Purge will be something like dodge that removes negative effects from yourself. So the Sith Sorcerer's Purge ability has been renamed Expunge, obviously for clarity. You don't want to confuse players that way. And then many ability tooltips have been changed to clarify the ability cleanses or purges negative effects from the target. I gotta say, I love this. Tooltips in this game are notoriously lengthy, and any way they can clean that up with simple changes to terminology is great. So there's not really much to talk about here, just that I like that they're going for a more elegant way of describing things to players. Now continuing on, specifically for Assassins and Shadows, tanks that is, Combat Technique and Dark Charge, which are the two tank stances, no longer heal the assassin, but now increase the armor rating by 130% up from 115, and it deals additional threat when it deals damage to the enemy. Now, I do like the change. I think that tanks, assassins, and shadows have been having a problem with aggro and have a problem with being one-shot. If you don't get shielded and you don't get a dodge or you don't get a resist or anything, you're wearing light armor, you're going to get smacked for a lot of damage. And this happens, tanks can go from 60 to 0 on a hard boss fight, hard-hitting boss fight. So this is obviously a necessary change. I don't love the fact that Dark Charge no longer heals the assassin, and in the discussion they talk about how they care about theming, and this is something that's important to me. I haven't discussed this before, but I'm a big proponent of class differentiation. I think when you homogenize all the classes together, like certain other MMOs have done, in the name of balance, everything, just goes haywire. Players should feel special as their class. They should feel proud to be their class. And homogenizing things does two things. It makes you not feel happy about your class, not special about your class, and it makes those one or two things that are different about your class, it really exacerbates anything that stands out, any imbalance inherent with those abilities. So if you do have an OP ability, if everyone else is the same and you have this one OP ability that they don't have, what do? You're an OP class. Do you give everyone else that too and homogenize further? It's just a catch-22 that when you homogenize in the name of balance, you end up imbalancing things even more. So I think that they should embrace differences between classes and different playstyles and things like that. And now, like they said, they do care about theming and are not against some small self-healing. They're okay with the Shadow Assassin sharing a panic button heal ability on a long cooldown, but they want to help them with this added armor. And while I think this is a nice thing to say, I think that they may have gone a little too far here. We'll see. They said that they are considering a change to Overload Saber and Battle Readiness that would allow all the different charges techniques to heal the Assassin Shadow while the ability is up, which is nice, but I think that they should have invested more into the self-healing of your Shadow and a little bit less into your armor rating. Now, the obvious problem with that is if If you're dead, you can't self-heal. So if you're getting hit from 60 to 0, you can't heal yourself anywhere. So something in there I think would have been nice. Some medium between this and what they've done would be cooler. The ability, the overload save, the battle readiness and overcharge saber only give you a 15% of your health back. What if they gave you like 50% of your health back? I think that would be cool. Is it OP? Maybe in PvP it would be. Who knows? But I would be happy to try something that makes them still stand out a little bit different, still be a little squishier. They should be the squishier tanks, but have a lot more kit to them. Be the really high skill cap tanks, and I think that would be cool. But we'll see how this works. Like everything, I'm going to say this every time, I guess. We'll see how this works when it goes live. Also, for the Assassin and Shadow, they increased the damage slightly on Maul, Lacerate, and Voltaic Slash, and their counterparts for the Shadow. And they slightly increased the damage of Double Strike on Consulars. For what reason, I don't know. They don't even notice the... They don't note the Sorcerer here, I don't even think. Oh, okay, they do. They say that the... No. The way they wrote this patch notes is weird. They talk about the Assassin, the Consular, and the... Never mind. I'm an idiot. I'm reading this totally wrong. I am an idiot. Sorry. They've increased the melee abilities damage slightly, which is nice. I do think the Shadow needed some damage buffs, and they only needed slight damage buffs because they could do some hard-hitting damage, so hopefully this gets them more in line with other DPS classes, especially melee DPS classes. Moving on to the Imperial Agent and Smuggler, they increased the damage to Overload Shot and Quick Shot, which were probably the most useless abilities in the game. They note that many players preferred using Rifle Shot Flurry of Bolts, which is your auto attack, even when they had energy available for Overload Shot and Quick Shot. Obviously a failure in design, so maybe this increased damage will help them. I know they've done this before, trying to make Quick Shot more of a useful ability. Maybe this will work this time, who knows. Next up, Operatives and Scoundrels can now be charged and pulled by other players while in cover. For Snipers and Gunslingers, cover remains unchanged. Now this is not going over very well in the Operative Scoundrel world. A lot of players are considering this a nerf and being very vocal in voicing that concern. They're saying that the Operatives and Scoundrels need a buff and not a nerf. And the devs are saying Operatives and Scoundrels are very slippery, and we never intended for them to continue using cover after choosing to be an Operative Scoundrel, rather than a Sniper Gunslinger at level 10. However, the innate cover defenses being provided to Operatives and Scoundrels, we incentivized the use of cover beyond level 10 for them. Some Operatives and Scoundrels picked up on this incentive and used cover to become more survivable than intended for them to be. Now, I sort of agree with them on this, but I actually think it's kind of cool that Operatives and Scoundrels still use cover in some form or fashion. I think it's cool that they can use it to roll to a specific cover spot and really get out of the fray if they want to. I think that should be left unchanged. But I think it's fair to say that the Operative Scoundrel shouldn't be gaining all the innate bonuses from cover. That should be a Sniper and Gunslinger specialty. So while you can roll away into cover, you can also be pulled back or leapt to. So I think that's a fair trade-off, especially on the healers. DPSers, I mean, I don't know how DPSers were really abusing this in cover. Were DPSers really using the inability to be pulled to their advantage? I guess the dirty fighting operatives could. We'll see. Overall, I don't think that this deserves as much negativity as it's been getting. It seems like a small nerf, and hopefully other changes will be coming in the future. Operatives are in a weird spot, as I've discussed before, in that the healers are so drastically powerful, and so incredibly powerful, but the DPS, while there are some players who can do very good DPS on the Operative Scoundrel, it's a lot tougher, and there's a huge gap between your usefulness as a healer and your usefulness as a DPS, especially in PvP, but somewhat in PvE, although I think in the 4v4 arenas, we've been seeing the Scoundrel DPS kind of step up a little bit, which is a nice change. So, I don't think this is a big deal, and we'll see how it goes again. Alright, moving on to the Juggernaut and to the Guardian. Overwhelm and Debilitation has been added to the Vigilance Vengeance skill tree, which provides a chance to immobilize up to 100% the target during Master Strike. I know a lot of Juggernauts and Guardians really hated when you Master Strike someone and they move away for one tick and you just totally wasted your Master Strike. So this is a very cool PvP ability. I don't think they really needed a buff, but this is a nice quality of life change more than a buff, I think. So some good stuff here. I'm sure a lot of Smashers are even more happy today. So, although this isn't in the Smasher tree. Yeah, no, it is in the Smasher tree, so never mind. Know a lot of Smashers who are rejoicing at that. The Sith Marauder and Jedi Sentinel are getting a quality of life change in Juya form, making your Merciless or Annihilator buffs a little bit easier to keep up to 24 seconds, up from 15 seconds where they were now. I know a lot of the skill in the Watchman tree was being able to keep up that Merciless Slash or your Annihilate. Being able to keep up that debuff was like 100% of the skill in that tree, so... And I know it was really annoying, especially on high movement fights. You'd move out of like an AoE ability for like a second, and all of a sudden your damage goes back down to health. So, nice change for them. And also to the Marauder and Sentinel. Inspiration and Transcendence. I think this might be the biggest change here. No longer prevents the Sentinel from becoming centered while it's active, which is a nice change. It no longer hinders the Sentinel to use Inspiration for the party, stopping them from using their solo abilities that use Centering or Fury. And also, Inspiration now affects the entire operation up to 40 meters away from the Sentinel, but applies a debuff that lasts for 5 minutes on all affected group members. The debuff prevents affected players from regaining Inspiration again, so this is the death of stacking Inspirations, but Inspiration now affects the entire team, which is nice for 16-mans, for one, but also changes how some groups will be using the Inspiration buff or the Bloodthirst buff. This kind of apes what WoW did with Heroism, adding a buff to everyone. I think this is pretty standard. I think a lot of players will be happy about the Inspiration and Transcendence change because it was hurting your own damage to help out the team's damage. So it's nice of them to allow them to continue their full rotation even while using these group helping debuffs. And finally, there's going to be a change to Undying Rage or Guarded by the Force. It now has a 2-minute cooldown, which is up from a minute 30. And the health cost of this ability, this is the ability that reduces all damage by like 99%. It will be shifted from the front end to the back end. So if you start at 2 HP, you used to use the ability, you would go down to 1 HP, and then you would be taking 99% reduced damage. If you got a heal in there, you got healed up to full, then you get to go back into the fight at full health. But now, if you are at 2 HP, you hit the ability, you don't go down to 1 HP, you then get healed all the way up to full, and you end up at half HP. So I think this is a little bit more fair. That ability was the bane of my existence in PvP. I used to hate letting these Marauders and these Sentinels just walk away from me at like no HP, dealing 1 damage, 2 damage, 1 damage, 2 damage. It's so annoying. I hated that. I would have preferred it be 0 damage. So overall, we'll have to see how these class changes end up. It is nice to see that they were listening to the feedback from the class reps. A lot of these things were suggested in those class rep dev blog thingies. So, good for them for keeping up with that. I know a lot of players like Mando Healers for PvP were saying, well, where's mine? Where's mine? They have said that this is the bulk of the class changes for patch 2.5. So, any drastic changes for your Mando Healers or any other class that you think needs some help will not be coming in patch 2.5. That being said, they are saying that they want to continue more frequent balance changes, which is good. They need to do smaller tweaks more frequently, in my opinion. So, good for them for doing that. They also said that once patch 2.5 drops, they will be returning the class representation questions, Q&As. So, If you feel your class needs some help, go to your reps and talk to BioWare, and hopefully they'll do something just like they did with this set of questions, which is good for them. I think this is showing that BioWare is willing to listen to those suggestions in the class Q&As, so that's good. As always, class balance is the eye of the beholder. Some people say that this class is the best, this is the worst, yada 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 yada. Yes, there are some obvious cases that need changes, but it's not as easy as it may look on the outset. Balance is one of the hardest things to achieve in an MMO, and so far BioWare has done a relatively good job at balance. I think it is one of the most balanced MMOs that I've played. There are tweaks that need to happen, and hopefully they happen more frequently and more regularly, but I think this is a good step in the right direction, and hopefully 2.5 will be the last of the major balance change patches. So we'll see what happens. I'm happy that they're doing some stuff, so we'll just have to see what happens. And with that, it's time for the Wall of Crazy.
What? That's impossible even for a computer. It's not impossible. I used to bullseye womp rats in my T16 back home. They're not much bigger than 2 meters.
And this week's Wall of Crazy topic comes from the one and only Madmar at SWTOR Family on Twitter. He sent me this email a very long time ago during the very first bounty contract week, and gave me his idea for what he would do to spice up the event. Hi GT, my thoughts on making the BBA event more of an event is to make it PvP with an end-of-year showdown. For this to work, we need a few things. First, we need a one-off quest that will catch the attention of the BBA to put a bounty on you. Then we need a bounty hub, located in the BBA area on Fleet. When you go to the bounty hub, you will be put in a queue. Once you have enough players, you'll be teleported to the planet, and your match begins. On doing this, you will be PvP flagged and eligible to be hunted yourself. Also, you will be given a player's name as your primary target. This target can be /whispered for some bounty banter. Other bounties on the planet can be stolen as bonus bounties. Once on a planet, you cannot use your ship, fleet pass, or any other get-off-planet stuff. Only quick travel, taxi, or your speeder. These, of course, will be disabled in combat. On your map, you will be able to see your bounty. Bounties can't see you on their map until you're in the minimap range, or you see visually. All players doing the event will have a symbol above their head, which will only be visible to players doing the event through the bounty hub. Your match will pop when at least 10 players are in queue, with a 1.5 minute get ready, more players to get added time. Debatable how many players should be allowed in each pop. Each pop will add itself to different instances that are ready on each planet. Each match will be 30 minutes long. That seems a little long to me. Also debatable, like he says. Or if you get the last man standing. You will have one target, but you will also be someone else's target. You can capture other bounties if you see them. This will give you a bonus bounty for kills. If you choose to do this though, the player that had that bounty now has you as a target. This event will come with a leaderboard. At the end of the year, the top 20, also debatable, will do an end-of-year showdown to prove you are the best for that year. He lists that you could add achievements, such as last man standing, be the last one alive, bounty stealer, steal a bounty, etc., etc. Well, that's my idea for the BBA PvP event. I've probably left stuff out, and plenty of room for improvement. Let me know what you think. And I love the concept of this idea. I would make some changes, though. If anyone has played the Assassin's Creed PvP, or multiplayer, it's similar to this, somewhat different. I like the idea of like an assassination style minigame PvP arena thing for the bounty contract week. I think it makes more sense. What if the event encouraged a lot of players to go to a small world area, similar to the Ilum area, maybe? Except you are given a bounty, and it could be any player, so it would be a free-for-all PvP area. Maybe it could take place in the Outlaws Den, and you could attack anyone or kill anyone, but you are given one specific target, and they don't know who you're targeting, but you know who you're looking for, and someone is targeting you in that area. I think that would be a really cool, kind of assassination if you played that in real life, kind of style, and there'd be lots of players there, and you would only get points for assassinating your given target. So maybe even disincentivize killing other players. I know you've said maybe add a bounty stealing mechanic. I think it would be cooler if you have to surgically target your one bounty. I think that would spice up the event. I think it would add to more of the feel of the bounty contract weeks really being about bounty hunting, which is something it doesn't really feel like now. It just feels like you're going to a planet and killing a dude, which is something you do in pretty much every quest ever. So adding that PvP element would definitely be a nice change to the event, and I think would be cool. So thanks at SWTOR family, Madmar, you're great. Thanks for all your retweets and whatnot. If you're not already following Madmar on Twitter, I highly suggest you follow at SWTOR family. And that's going to do it for the show. I want to give a special thanks to the SWTOR Escape Podcast, ZooTiniCast, Tour Wars, and Corellian Run, all of which mentioned my coverage of the New York City Community Cantina in their previous podcasts. Those are some of the best SWTOR podcasts out there, so thank you guys for giving me a shout out. I also want to thank Chris Mayfield at Darth Baphomet for 2 weeks ago's Wall of Crazy idea on objective-based arenas. I did not recall who gave me that idea, and it was definitely him, so thank you very much. Also, the Extra Life charity event is less than 2 weeks away. I will be gaming for 25 hours on November 5th, and if you want to see some crazy, funny, insane stuff going on, you definitely want to check out the waning hours of that event, because I will be in a altered state of mind, that's for sure. So, Extra Life charity event, if you'd like to donate to the Children's Hospitals Foundation, I will provide a link in the show notes. Anything you can give would be highly appreciated. Thank you guys. And as always, if you'd like to contact me, you can send your questions, comments, and concerns to getacteague.crr@gmail.com, or you can tweet them to @gteague, GTEG on Twitter. Make sure you like and subscribe on iTunes, and go ahead and leave me a comment on iTunes, because some of them are pretty funny, and I'd love to read out some funny comments on my iTunes page. If you're new to the game or thinking of resubscribing, I've provided my refer a friend link in the show notes, so if you'd like a little N instead to come back, feel free to use it. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of the Unnamed SWTOR Podcast. This is JD, signing off.